Welcome to See You at USC. I'm your host, Paige Batcher. Tonight, my guest is Danny Sussman. He's the talent manager at Brillstein Entertainment Group. Danny, thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So not everyone is really familiar with the entertainment industry, and you are a talent manager. What does that mean?
In a way, it means being a great cheerleader. You're sort of a cheerleader for clients during times of great success, a cheerleader for clients during times of great failure. You manage everything. You manage everything from their acting engagements to deal making, to press, to travel, to helping them find money, to making sure that they save money, to making sure that they don't spend all their money, and to trying to put together the threads that make up a career. And that's kind of what we do. I mean, we work with agents, we work with lawyers, we work with publicists, but when you're a manager, you're the quarterback. You're the center of the entire field. And everything runs through you. Whereas an agent is sort of like, if you think of soccer, somebody trying to score a goal, a manager is more like a goalie. We're trying to prevent trouble. And we're trying to look after every aspect of the client's career, and some of the most intimate decision making that clients and their team does really runs through manager and client. Having been an agent for 10 years prior to this, I can tell you that I'm personally much more suited towards being a manager, because I believe in getting deeply involved with people. And when you're a cheerleader for other human beings, you make sure that you have the interest of the other human beings first, and that you exercise your service gene in their behalf. That's kind of my answer to that.
That's great.
Thanks.
So you're a cheerleader, except I imagine you don't have pom-poms.
No, it doesn't work like that. You speak with a loud voice and you speak with a soft voice. We, as managers, we play a role in everything also. It's almost like we're actors playing a part. Sometimes we have to go after money for somebody and be very harsh insofar as the way that we make the request. Other times we have to work a schedule out, which is very intricately knitted together between two productions, and you have to make friends with line producers on both sides, which are people whom you don't ordinarily know on a moment-to-moment basis, and you have to make best friends out of them so they want to work together. So there's lots of different sort of emotions that the cheerleading nature of being a manager entails.
And in
it's important.
And what I'm learning too, so also to preface, you are a professor here at USC.
I have been for a long time.
You're teaching 2 courses throughout the year, one
Yes.
for undergraduate business students who are also immersed in the cinema field, and then also
Yes.
one for graduate students,
Yes.
which I'm currently in. It's an amazing class, amazing class.
Hey
There's,
now.
there's the pitch. And I'm in there with lawyers, law students, cinema students, journalism students, communications, you name it, the whole gamut.
Yes.
So what we're learning also is that in Hollywood, really in order to get some of those amazing jobs, you absolutely need to have a manager and an agent, or a manager or an agent, probably maybe a publicist, so that you could end up having any number of representation, which
Yes.
is actually the name of your course, Business of Representation.
There's not really an answer to the question. My view of it is that the business for actors and for writers and for directors is unbelievably and wildly competitive. Mm-hmm. And the more people that you have in your court that are your lobbyists, as opposed to cheerleader, we can use the word lobbyist. A manager is an excellent lobbyist. The more lobbyists that you have, the easier it is for you not only to obtain work, but to go and obtain work that's even like on a higher level or on a more advanced level than previous jobs that you've gotten. And teams work well together when there's an agent and a manager working well together, when a lawyer is peppered in there, when a publicist is in there to take care of giving audiences awareness of a given movie or television show or theater opportunity. It works like a machine in a good way. And my philosophy, which I've taught you in your class and in every other class I've ever taught at SC, is like when you belong to something larger than yourself, when you're part of a crew, when you have other people that help you out with what you do and you help them, is like a sort of a strong sort of chain link that sort of sticks together. And great success can come of such things. Also, defeat can come, and when you or anybody else on a team makes a mistake, it's good to have other people to sort of pick up the slack, because we're all human beings and mistakes get made. That's how it works.
It's definitely a team effort.
Definite.
Well, speaking of that team effort, you've pulled a lot of incredible things together. And before we get into some of the clients that you're currently working with, I know that you did a deal and helped finance Big Night, Stanley Tucci's. It's one of my father's favorite movie, actually.
Very many years ago, okay, here was an actor that had sort of come out of, the downtown New York independent film scene. I got to know Stan because he was friends with Steve Buscemi, who was a client of mine also, and Stan was a client of The Office. And he had a dream that he wanted to become a director. And when you're representing people with such great passion, you have to like sort of answer their passion with equal passion and desire. And so I worked with a guy called Johnny Planko, who's still a pretty important agent / manager in New York City. And we gleaned together $4 million for them to make that movie. And one of the ways that we did that is because I had, back in those days, the Sundance Film Festival and independent film festivals in general were much more based on cinema and cinematic art, as opposed to sort of endorsements, sponsorships from Motorola, sponsorships from Cadillac, which are not bad things, but have certainly changed the nature of what those festivals are all about now. Sundance is very different now than it was in the early 1990s when I first started going there. So because we knew a lot of people that were pouring small amounts of money into important independent films, we managed to stumble upon some producers that believed in Stan, believed in his story, believed in his casting, believed in his vision for the film. And not only did it become a great work experience for him and turn him into a director, but as his rep, it was one of my proudest moments for that film to screen at film festivals and to be thanked by him. Because like I said, I put a lot of blood and treasure into that one. Very long time ago. But it's kind of nice to talk about it again, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's my father's favorite movie, and for those of you who haven't seen it, you should clearly see it. It's about two Italian brothers who their restaurant's failing.
Set in the 1950s, yes. It's set in New Jersey. There's a big Italian restaurant that moves in on the street, across the street from them. So they decide that they're going to come up with this one big dinner, this one big night for this finance guy that might help their restaurant stay afloat. And it's really about like how they argue and how they love each other, and the cooking and the food in the movie is surreal. How
it makes
amazing
you hungry.
it is. Yes, it makes you starving. It's fun. Good movie.
So how did you find yourself here? Did you always know as a kid you wanted to be a talent manager?
No. I read a lot of books and plays and saw a lot of movies and watched a lot of television growing up. So I was always sort of a fan of the art of acting and of good writing. I love biographies. I've always studied history my whole life. I come from the grandson of German Jews that ran away from Germany. So you study a lot of history when you're like that. And so, my path was sort of a random one. I actually got a job when I got out of college doing a job for a wire service as a financial journalist. And I wrote about military companies, and I wrote about oil companies, and I wrote a lot of hard news. And then I came to Los Angeles on a vacation where I didn't know anybody. And I met some schleppy Jewish guy from New York who was wearing a New York Mets hat, which I was wearing also. And he said, hey, I work for a film company called Corelco Pictures, and we're looking for somebody with some journalistic experience to write about our company's sort of stocks and bonds and, stock exchange offerings. So I said, I'm eminently qualified for that job. And I never imagined that I'd wind up in California. I was a New Yorker, tried and true. I still root for all New York teams. Go Giants, go Mets, go Knicks. And but I applied for the position and got it. I moved to Los Angeles in, by the way, it's going to be 25 years this summer. It's July 15th, 1988. I hated LA. I hated the guy. I hated the job. I hated the company. And I had no idea what in God's green earth I was doing out here.
Okay, so what changed?
One day there was a woman there who was the head of development for the company, a woman by the name of Kathleen Summers. And she threw a script on my desk, and she said, I want you to read this script for me. And I asked her, why? Why did you want me? Why did you want my opinion? And she said, well, you're kind of a relatively loudmouth, opinionated New York Jew, and I want to know what you think about my script. So I opened up the first page of the script, and the script was called Total Recall. And growing up, I had the privilege of reading many of the short stories by Philip K. Dick. So I flew through the script. I came in the next day. She asked me what I thought of it, and I said, this is like Blade Runner. This could be a million different things. This is an amazing movie. This is based on the Philip K. Dick. She goes, what do you do here? I said, well, I'm writing sort of financial news about the company's stocks and bonds. She goes, you shouldn't be doing that.
Right.
You should be an agent. So she introduced me to a fellow at William Morris by the name of Kerry Woods, and I went into Kerry Woods' office 2 days later, had an interview with him, had an interview with a few other agents at William Morris back in 88, 89, and I started delivering mail 2 days later in their training program. That's how I got into this.
And 25 years later, you've repped some amazing clients. 10 years as an agent, and then now as a manager.
15.
I want to actually show a few images of some clients that you're representing. So Chloe Sevigny, Noah Wiley, I know him from ER. Jimmy Smits, who was NYPD Blue, right?
I won some Emmys for NYPD Blue.
But he's on Sons of Anarchy now. And John Stamos,
He's the hottest actor in Hollywood
I can't
right
forget
now.
him from Full House.
Oh, Full House a long time ago.
And then Reese Ifans, right?
Reese Ifans.
Ifans, okay. From Notting
dinner with
Hill.
him last night. We had a very fun night.
He's in
Very
The
good.
Amazing Spider-Man. He's really quirky.
Yeah, but he's also a really talented theater actor. He's Welsh. He's also a poetic, beautiful person. Former rock star from an English punk band called Super Furry Animals.
Super Furry
man.
Animals.
Spectacular man, yes.
Amazing.
I love all those people very much. I've represented them all for a very long time. When you showed the image of Chloe, she was carrying the Golden Globe that she had won for Big Love.
Big Love.
Which was a show that we were passionately invested in, and it was a very, very proud moment in my life because I've worked for her since she first started in Kids. I've worked for Noah for a very, very all those people for a very, very long time, and I love them all very dearly. They're, to me, family members, not just clients. They're not business for me. I'm personally invested in them, and they in me, and that's what makes the job actually joyful.
I want to ask you about Chloe's, her award for Big Love. Big Love, from what I understand, is the story. It was 2006 television series. It's about a man who's a polygamist and the story of his 3 wives,
Yes.
right? Since you
One
are...
of my other clients is in the show, too. Jean Triplehorn was in that show, too. She played one of the first wives, Barbara.
Did they ever ask you about moral implications? I know you're cheerleader, but you're also sort of a mental...
Did the clients ask me that?
Yeah.
No. The clients were enamored by the writing.
Okay.
The show was produced by Playtone Entertainment, which is Tom Hanks and Gary Getzman's company for HBO, one of the best organizations in the world of television, as you all know, because I'm sure you all watch their shows. And the writers, Mark and Will, they wrote a spectacular sort of story about marriage and about, the world that surrounded this particular version of it. And at the end of the day, whether one would agree philosophically and or morally with the way this family conducted its affairs, this family conducted its affairs based on the fact that they all loved each other. And at the end of the day, Big Love was really about big love. And I know that sounds funny, but it's really true. And it was a wonderful show. It ran for 5 years. And I watched every episode ever produced, obviously. Chloe and Jean were bringing it. Bill Paxton was great in it. So was Ginny Goodwin. So was a lot of the supporting cast. It was well-directed, well-thought-out show. And, it was a proud experience to be part of that.
So how often would you say that you talk and interact with your clients?
Oh, my God.
I know that's a question that came up a lot in class.
Every day. Depends. If a client is on a set shooting something, it's a little bit less. If a client is looking for work, it's a little bit more. If there's decisions to make about deals or about choices or about press or about, any kind of given set of circumstances, you talk to that particular client more. If somebody's starting a job, I'm more or less dealing with the person that's finishing a job. Because, when somebody finishes something, they want to know what the next thing is. It's different when you're an actor, because when you wrap a show or you wrap a movie or you wrap a play, even the biggest actors need to know what their next gig is. Mm-hmm. Okay? Whereas we all go to work and we know that we're going to go to work at Brillstein every day and have a place to hang our hats. So, you're responsible for other human beings' employment. You want to make sure that you're setting that up.
Incredible. Well, stay tuned. We're going to take a short commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk about Danny's advocacy for Israel. I'm really interested to hear it.